So this little guy has already become quite a favorite amongst you guys because it's so easy to build and it also looked pretty cool too. I noticed there was another quality of this puzzle that I really wanted to explore. If you look at it on the right angle, it looks like a triangle, which means if I was to make the proper cuts, I could turn it into a triangular prism. So that's what I'm going to do today. Let's get started. I gave myself a head start by cutting off the 3 edges before I started this build. If you haven't seen the flat face Penrose cube, you should definitely go and check out that build video and try and build one while you're at it. It's a pretty easy puzzle to get started on. But anyways, I sorted all the pieces out into those that I was going to fill and those that I wasn't going to touch, although this ended up being pretty much a waste of time since after I filled all the pieces, I decided that I was going to cut down into other pieces, so it was pretty much a pointless effort. But anyways, after I finished filling all those pieces, this is what the puzzle looked like. I took the puzzle back over to my bandsaw and then I cut down deeper into the edges, exposing some of the other pieces. I decided on a depth that would get the faces very close together on the edge pieces, but they wouldn't intersect. And after I was done with that, I was pretty happy with the cross section, which was a triangle. I took the puzzle over to my belt sander and I sanded down those faces, just to get everything nice and level before I cut off the top and bottom corners. Well, she's not pretty, but neither am I, and I get the job done. Finding the shape was actually pretty easy, although like I said before, I did expose some cavities that needed to be filled. So I filled those and I sanded everything down, and this is what the puzzle looked like. Now it was time to deal with the corners on the top and bottom, and I figured I'd do half truncated cube cuts rather than going all the way down as far as I could. Typically whenever I do deep cut modifications, it's because I want to save time and just cut most of the material away, which saves time on extensions. But one of the downsides to this is you end up with a very small and kind of weird looking puzzle. In this build I wanted to do a more extension heavy modification, so I figured I would leave the cuts a little shallower and then extend everything that needed to be extended. After I cut the puzzle, I went back over to my belt sander and I just sanded down all of the faces in areas that needed to be sanded and got everything closer to a more uniform shape. Now that all of that was done, it was time to fill all of the pieces. The way that I'm actually building this puzzle is very inefficient time-wise. In fact, I could have done all of the cuts at the beginning and then just filled everything and gone from there. The reason that I'd done everything in steps is because I really wasn't sure just how far down I was going to cut this puzzle, and I figured doing little steps in between other builds would help me think about what I was going to do. After I was finished filling everything, it was time for the extensions, which weren't really much to be said. All I did is pile on all of the epoxy sculpt where I needed, and after everything was cured, I sanded it all down so that I could reassemble the puzzle. Everything looks a little bit like a jagged mess here, but that's all part of the plan because now it's time to sand everything down into its final shape. I took the puzzle over to my belt sander and I sanded down all of the faces, making sure to keep them as uniform and similar as possible because I didn't want to go too far down on one of the faces. As I was sanding the faces down, I used the black lines of all of the original pieces as a guide to make sure that each of the faces is uniform in size and shape, and they're also all at the same depth. This is just something that I've learned to do over the years of doing this, and it's actually a pretty easy and foolproof way of getting a puzzle to a perfect size. After all the sanding was done, this is what the final puzzle looked like. I was really happy with the overall shape of the puzzle. I think that the dimensions were just perfect. I think I would have liked to have sanded down a little further on the top and the bottom, but I like where I left it here, and I think this is a pretty good shape for now. But anyways, I rounded over all the pieces and threw some stickers on it, and here it is, the puzzle is finally done. I've actually wanted to do a triangular prism for a very long time now, and I don't know why it's taken such a long time for me to get around to doing it. What's really cool about this puzzle is it obeys certain properties very similar to the hexagonal prism, which means that I could do a fuse cube variant that would be a lot taller. For now though, I'm really happy with how this puzzle turned out, and not only that, I am incredibly satisfied with just how much it shapeshifts. This puzzle is really jagged and crazy when it gets all scrambled up, and I think this is probably going to be a very interesting puzzle to solve, but even if it wasn't stick it up with different colors, if they were all just the same color, I still think it would be a pretty interesting puzzle, like one of those mirror blocks puzzles, or something like that. But anyways, I think my favorite thing about this puzzle is that it really just shows that all you need to make an original puzzle design is a unique perspective and a little bit of inspiration. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.